right, here's something I should know about you. What is your favorite condiment?
I would say mustard or sweet relish.
You like both?
I like both.
Pick one. You got to pick one. You got to take a side.
I'm going to say if I had sweet relish on everything on the planet, it would be a better world.
Is that even really a condiment?
Of course
sweet
it's
relish?
a condiment. Pickles are a condiment. Yes, 100%.
You know what the number one condiment is in the country?
Probably ketchup.
No.
What?
No, mayonnaise.
Oh, mayo's good.
Ugh.
I like mayo.
I think that speaks
Our kids
volumes.
really like mayo. And you know what they really like is spicy mayo.
Yeah,
That's a whole thing now.
That's okay. The sriracha mayo?
Yeah. It's still made from the same thing.
Still mayo. This mayo is just bland.
No,
Americana.
especially not the. Oh, it's Americana. Exactly.
No, it's. I think it just that speaks volumes. But no, my favorite. I think I'm with barbecue sauce.
Is that a condiment?
I don't know, but I'm going with it too.
Anything that I think the definition of condiment is anything you put on a burger. That should be the definition.
Well, that's not like lettuce, pickles. Those aren't condiments.
I think they might be condiments.
I don't think so. There's some wealth. We could just go down this rabbit hole for a long time.
Wait,
but there's a
Google.
reason that we're talking about the condiments, and we're going to explain right after the fancy music plays.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Off the Mark with the Bitterstone.
We were just debating the condiment issue. It's not settled. We'll continue to debate that. But our guest today, she wrote an article titled, "Did You Forget the Ketchup in Your Marketing Strategy?" which is a very catchy title. That's what caught me.
The ketchup caught you?
As it always does.
No, it's a very marketable title. That's why she's the marketing queen. That's what I would say.
Exactly right.
So many entrepreneurs are really excited to get started with their business. You know, they got a great big idea.
I got an idea. I'm an idea man.
I got a great product or a service. It's going to change the world. But then they forget a very important piece, like their marketing and the foundation, basically, of how they're going to get the word out and who their customer is, what's their messaging, what people are going to respond to, their potential customers. That's some of the things that they're not thinking about.
So today we're going to get all the tips for how to create the solid foundation to bring in the ketchup for your marketing strategy. And our guest is Nicole Bernard, who is the founder of nb.Marketing. Did I get that right? nb.Marketing?
Yeah, totally. A lot of people forget the dot. So thank you.
I am good at remembering the dots. Other than that,
he can't connect the dots,
but
he can remember one dot. That's it.
So a little bit about Nicole. She's a Louisiana State University graduate. I went to Tulane. So
did you really? That's awesome.
Yeah, we used to sing "Go to Hell, LSU." That was it. That was the whole.
That was it.
Wow,
that was it. That's so classy.
It was before Baby Shark, I think,
Right.
and so we would have done the Baby Shark song otherwise.
Right. Yeah, we had a similar one. It was like "Go to Hell, Ole Miss." So
yeah, you guys didn't even care about Tulane.
Yeah, they didn't bother with their cursing.
Tulane, that cute little green wave that she got there. Go ahead.
All right, let's finish introducing Nicole.
Okay, she began her career as an intern for Microsoft. She is the founder of nb.Marketing, fell in love with both the creative and strategic side of marketing. Since that time, she's worked with large corporations, startups, nonprofits, and small businesses to execute their marketing goals. Thanks for being with us.
yeah, I'm excited for our chat. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, for starters, tell us a little bit about your journey into the marketing world. When did you realize your passion for marketing? And I wonder if you think it's like part of the DNA. I find some of the greatest marketers, it's just there's something in them that it's a creative, I don't know, it's a gene, maybe not.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Actually, like in college, I started out in elementary education as my major. And then I had to go and do like where you go into the classroom. And I was like, oh, this isn't really for me once I had got in there. So then I switched to marketing. And like you mentioned, I had my internship my senior year with Microsoft. And that just like blew my mind. They flew us up to like their campus in Redmond, had us there for a weekend, just went through all of these marketing things that I'd never really been that immersed in, but just the creativity of like coming up with the campaigns, but then like the strategy and also looking at the numbers and the analytics, just the blend of those. fell in love.
Which is why you opened a brewery.
Yes.
I
Well,
kind of took a big leap there.
Well, because she likes to drink while she's marketing.
Yeah,
Come
well, who
on.
doesn't?
Hello.
yeah, you get the ideas. Yeah, no. So from there, after I graduated, we stayed in New Orleans. I worked at the Enterprise Rent-A-Car, like at the airport in Kenner for 2 years. And that was 2007. So Katrina had hit in 2005.
Hold on a second. I am fascinated by Enterprise.
They know what they're doing.
That personalized service, they take you to the car, they pick you up. Do they still do that?
I believe so, yeah. Like, and they just had such a structure. So I got to learn so many cool things. And yeah, they just all those little fine points, those touch points along the customer journey, like they know how to do it. And so I learned a lot from there. And I thought I would stay like in corporate. That's always what I wanted. Like, I don't know, I wanted to wear fancy clothes and stilettos, but then we decided to leave about 2 years after Katrina. My husband was like renovating houses and was just tired and was like, it's hot here. And so my parents had relocated to the Northwest. That's how we ended up where we are now. And then we bought a farm. We were young. It was before kids. Thought it'd be like a great idea and started growing vegetables. And we did that for 4 years before we added the brewery. And then we added the brewery in for the last 3 years. And then, yeah, we got so busy our last season that our neighbors complained because they weren't as excited about as our success as we were. So went through the whole thing, attorneys, public hearing.
They had the best weekend of their lives or something,
I
right?
know.
Well, I read the article, and there was another article that you wrote.
Yeah, it was huge. It was a big weekend and they did not like that.
Should have invited them over and given them free
Well,
beer.
she probably did invite them over.
We tried. We really did.
Yeah,
They just didn't like beer. I mean, come on. They weren't beer people. You got to move next to
know.
beer people.
they got a cease and desist,
Exactly.
and
No.
yeah, and then
That's
they
so
had it.
bad.
All the paperwork was filled out completely right, or whatever. They had all the right things, but there was a glitch in one law or something like that.
Yeah, it was our permit with the county, and we were just going to do the beer growlers, like those big things you can fill and take. And then when the state came out, like for alcohol, he was like, "No, you can serve pints here." And we're like, "Oh, okay. Well, then we'll serve pints." And we didn't know we had to go back and like update the permit that we'd applied for, and that fine print is what got us. Which, that was our mistake. So we learned from that to always read the fine print.
Do you still live on the farm? You just don't run the brewery?
We don't. We sold it to one of like our biggest customers that came to the farm all the time. And so it's pretty funny. Like we actually ran into him like last week, and he's farming, but not in like a commercial way like we were. And he's just loving it.
Oh,
So
well, good. And then he has to deal with the neighbors.
Little known
Yeah.
fact, he's the guy who had the desist on.
He's the guy who turned around.
Secretly had to see. Then I'm gonna swoop in, buy it at a price.
That is Mark's conspiracy theory. That is not true.
That's not true. I'm just connecting the dots for once.
Yeah, the wrong dots. But anyway.
right.
Problem I have.
Okay. So in your entrepreneur.com article, you compare building a burger, which was interesting, to building a marketing strategy. So can you explain where the comparison came from?
Yeah. When I told my husband that was the title, he was like, "Seriously, you're writing about food?" And I was like, "Well, I love food. So yes."
Got my attention. Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love a good burger? But yeah, it is a true story. We went down to the waterfront here and forgot the ketchup. And I was like, a ketchup really ties everything together for me in a hamburger. Some people might not like ketchup, but just the analogy of like, for me, that's what ties everything together. And when I do talk to business owners, a lot of them have skipped over their marketing foundation of just really getting clear on who their ideal customer is, where they're hanging out, what struggles they're having that keeps them up at night, and like how to market with like that verbiage, the images, where you're showing up. And it just made me think of both of those together because that really ties in such an effective marketing strategy.
Wait, let's go back for a second. So you went out for a picnic and you brought hamburgers and you brought all this stuff, but you didn't have.
She brought the pickles, the onions, which is the SEO, the onions was the social media, the tomatoes, the email marketing, the mustard, which is of course the content strategy, right?
Right.
This is all in your cleverly written article, which I do love the way you talked about CEO being the pickles. But like you forgot at the picnic, you forgot the ketchup, which is your foundation.
Correct. There we go. All right. Now, okay, we got it all answered now. No, that's so. Did you get any pushback? Did other people say no? The mustard's the foundation.
No, nobody has actually like come against ketchup being like the rock star holding it together.
I do think, although personally for me, mustard or relish are more the rock star for me. But I do think if you were to poll all the condiments, probably ketchup would be in the front, would be a front runner, I think.
See, I would go with barbecue sauce.
On a burger? I've never had barbecue sauce.
Oh my
it's
gosh, you have to
God,
try
it's
it. It's
great.
good. It's good.
I will have to.
Well, now for you, barbecue sauce will be, Instagram or something else for your next article. But so when you say the marketing foundation, so take me through, let's say you are opening up a vintage shop and you are going to sell recycled or used clothing.
Now, let me explain something to you here. This is Kathy's example every show because she wants to do this with her
I do want to do this. So anyway, don't steal my idea.
She's you for free ideas.
But anyway, so you're a little vintage store. You're in a small town, like let's say Charleston, South Carolina, where you get a lot of people who
another place she wants to go. Okay.
Let's say the beach. Let's say on the Eastern Shore in
place.
Ocean City. No, I do not want to be there. And you have a little mom and pop like vintage store and you have all the cute little goods. You've been to New York and you've been everywhere and you got like you went to the best thrift shops and you have a good supply chain to get some good used clothing. And so you think you're ready to go because you have all the goods, but you didn't really think about what, like if that was your client, what would you tell them? Like, whoa, wait a minute. Did you do this, this, and this first?
So there I would start with their goals of what they're wanting to do because everybody's goals start out a little different. I mean, obviously, ultimately, we all want to make more money. That's why we're in business, but like, do you want to create brand awareness or do you want to like increase online sales? Like, do you have an online shop? Like, I would just I start there of what they're really wanting to do and how they can expand their business. And then how can we measure this so we know it's working? Like, what's the timeline of when you want these to start coming into action? Is it relevant to your business? Different things like that. And then I really do work through who their like ideal customer is. And sometimes people call that their buyer persona or avatar, really flush out like how old they are, where they're hanging out online and off, their hobbies. People kind of, I think, have an idea of it. But when you really sit down and like write out how much money they make, like, are they married or divorced? How many kids do they have? So you can really kind of understand them. And then that kind of leads you into where you can spend your marketing efforts, like a vintage shop. That for me, that would be like interest in, Instagram and Pinterest, Facebook too, maybe even get like a little Facebook group so you can really start to, build that community and have warm leads there. And then I would look at, like, how is your website? Do we need any like SEO help? Do you have e-commerce? So like just really starting with those foundational goals and then they kind of build on each other and that really helps drive your marketing strategy. And then I also teach them how to look at their analytics across the different tools so they know if it's working and what to double down on and what to kind of let go. And so I just work with them like that. But having that foundation is what really drives that strategy and helps them grow.
And this is something that I feel like I run across, and I don't know if you run across, even relatively, businesses that have been around for a while. Sometimes when they really start to get into marketing, you look and you go back and you go, wait a minute, what's your message? Do you find that a lot of people don't have 3 key messages or their brand identity? Like they don't have a style guide. They don't have like a look that's consistent. I mean, are those some of the things too that you think are crucial and that tend to be missing, some of the basics?
Definitely. Because I think, and as business owners, I feel like marketing gets put on like the back burner. So they'll kind of haphazardly put things up. And so there isn't like, brand pillars or like a consistent vibe in their messaging. And so I find that once they do pull that together and they are able to consistently start posting, then they start seeing results quickly. But yeah, that is definitely like something that's overlooked. And I think now too, it's always been important, but people really do their research now and they really want to get to know that business and the people behind it and what they sell. And so just having that consistent branding and messaging across all platforms, social, website, even when you email your templates, like just tying that all together really makes a big difference. Kind of like enterprise, like those different touch points. And when they're all together, like the results just speak for themselves.
Do you find that sometimes it takes a while for the light to go off over the client's head and that they need to do this and this is what they really need to be focusing on as opposed to coming up with a cute name for their upselling store?
Yeah, I've even had a few people come to me and they're like, this isn't going to work. I don't really believe in it, but people tell me I need to try it. I'm like, okay, well, let's get started. And
we get that one. We get people tell me I need marketing.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's why I called you. Yeah.
Like it's a foreign thing. Like, marketing and sales sort of like they like go off the, when you say sales, it's almost like sales and marketing or marketing and sales.
But it's good. I mean,
people forget about the marketing
at
part.
least they're open enough to realize they need something. They don't know what they need.
Yeah, but how do you not?
That's good.
How do you not factor in marketing? Like that's part of the burger. You can't have like salt and pepper. If we're going back to you can't, or the ketchup, you know what I mean? Like you
or
can't.
The barbecue sauce.
Or the barbecue sauce. No, that's just like a super important ingredient. And I find that also when times get tough, the first thing they cut is marketing. And that's the first thing you should really invest in, right?
Yes, totally. Or they'll like speed up and market, and then they'll get a bunch of business and then they'll kind of drop off again. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like a little vicious cycle of
like stop, start.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and I hate to see them like that because then they're overwhelmed and frustrated and stressed trying to get business, and then they'll get it, and then that cycle just repeats itself. Yeah, I try to work with them to have just a consistent plan. Yeah. And I think marketing confuses a lot of people because there are so many different ways you could go about it. And so they'll see people doing things, and so they'll try it. That might not necessarily work for their business, which is, go back to your foundation. So they get frustrated. But the more they can learn about it and like when it's explained, because it's not rocket science, you guys know, but just educating them, it just helps so much. And then that's when I see the light go off. Like they're like, oh, that's why we're doing what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Are they patient enough to wait to go through it? I mean, it's sometimes, you need a long runway.
Yeah, most are. Every once in a while I'll have someone hop on and they're like, I need Facebook ads or I need to do TikTok ads. I'm like, whoa. Slow down. And so we'll start to work through it and then we'll add in those things. But yeah, for the majority, most of the people will stick around for it. And then they'll start to see, like once their SEO starts kicking in and, they're getting sales from their email campaigns, like they will. And then they get excited and then they start to trust the process.
It cracks me up a lot of times when companies, they just see the next it thing, right? And they don't think about whether the next it thing will work with their clientele and their potential customers. So like if you're a hearing aid company and you're like, oh, we need to be on TikTok. I'm like, so are you trying to reach the Gen Zers? I mean, I'm not saying no Gen Zers have hearing issues because they probably listen to loud music and maybe they do, but that's not the main way you're going to get to your audience. I mean, you're not even going to get
grandma.
You're not even going to get
those kids and their loud music.
No, but they're also not going to get, like, if you're a hearing aid company, you want to get to the seniors, but you also want to get to the sons and daughters of the seniors who might be noticing grandpa has a hearing problem and grandpa doesn't think he does. But yeah, so it's like, you have to think very
She was referring to me.
Okay, no, I was not. You're not a grandpa unless there's something I don't know. But yeah, so I do you really have to explain, like, is that one of the things, like, wait a minute, let's think about bandwidth. Let's think about where your audience is. Let's think about where you're most likely to see the fastest and most sustainable success.
Yeah, totally. Like it's just kind of explaining to them that whole process of why, we should be doing what we should be doing in like different platforms and, different ways. And then also too, what I've noticed, because I feel like they jump in because, we're all ready to go. We have a business, we need to share it. But once they get that foundation, and then also to even taking that time, because it's like, oh, I'll get to it later. That doesn't tend to happen. Just planning stuff out. Like, you don't have to plan out your posts or your emails or your blogs or anything for a month at a time. But if you can even just take 20, 30 minutes and look at your calendar and kind of start to write topics, just like getting ahead of that game, that has just been phenomenal for them too, just to take that stress and overwhelm like down a notch, because they feel like they're ahead of it a little bit.
Do you mostly work with small businesses or all sizes?
All sizes, really. Yeah, I've worked with some big corporations over the last year, but I do work with a lot of mom and pops. I've got, a few local people here, jewelry shop, like just different, like I've never niched down, which everybody has always said to do, but for me, like, I know the different principles and strategies can be applied. So I've just had fun helping all sizes and shapes and, different places.
So there is a straight line that you can draw from small business to the larger corporations. And they not only do they all need to do this, they all sometimes overlook this important step.
Yeah, totally.
I think too, I mean, I know we're all supposed to niche down, like you said, that's like the advice everyone gives you. But I think when you're niche, like let's say you're just a marketing company just for lawyers, then you become very cookie cutter, and you do the same thing over and over and over. And that's what you do for all of them. Where if you have to work with the jewelry business at a restaurant, different ideas, you start bubbling up, and you wouldn't think that what I do for the jewelry business would also work really well for the lawyers. Maybe, you know what I mean? But I feel like it also, customers shouldn't necessarily look for a marketing company that only specializes in that one area, because they might be missing out on some other different ideas and different marketing tactics that other industries use that you might be familiar with if you're working with a variety of different companies.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that, because I totally agree with what you said. Because, again, there are so many different ways to do it. And it's really neat, like just seeing the different opportunities within different industries and trying to see if those, like you said, apply to different industries. Yeah, it's definitely, there's no boring days, I don't feel like, in marketing.
Some people say no news is good news.
I say to those people, you've never read 1631digitalnews.com.
Hey, everybody, there's a new site online that pulls the best content from the best sources from around the internet.
Get the latest breaking news, U.S. news, sports, luxury, music, entertainment, and even a great lineup of podcasts, including, guess which one?
Off the Mark.
Off the Mark with the Bickersteinsteins.
Check it out today at www.1631digitalnews.com. That's www.1631digitalnews.com.
It's a great news site.
It is.
It's where we get all our news, or a lot of our news, most of our news, a good part of our news.
I check it out first thing in the morning.
And before you go to bed. All day.
And before I go to bed.
It's a 24/7
I'm going to go on it right now before our podcast in case I missed something.
1631. Check it out. 1631digitalnews.com.
So if you could give another real life example. So you and your husband started a brewery and a farm. Can you kind of, quickly go through the process of how you picked out your, like let's say, obviously you were your client, right? Like that was your marketing client, was your own business. So how did you go about, like, first making sure that you had your target audience and that you made sure that the product that you were selling was what your customer wanted? I mean, can you take us through?
What don't you get about the word beer?
Well, I don't know if it's just that easy. Maybe it is.
Brewery. I can't say brewery. That is too many R's.
You're saying it right.
Okay. Yes.
It definitely sounds weird. Brewery. It sounds like no one's saying it right.
They were brewing their own stuff.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just take us through the process a little bit of how, like, target audience and that kind of stuff, because that gives people a real life example of what they have to do with their business.
Yeah, totally. So where I live, I'm an hour from Portland, so craft beer is kind of a big thing out here. So we knew that we were in an area, and we're also in a touristy kind of area out in the Columbia River Gorge. So I knew trying to attract tourists and then also just like the beer industry people would be like the quickest for us to be able to create brand awareness. And then obviously we utilize social media because it's free. I reached out to like a lot of different beer bloggers around here. And every year we would have an open house and we just invite them all here to the farm. They could taste whatever they wanted, and they would go back and write blogs about it. And then at the same time, they're doing social media from our farm. So we're getting, out in front of all of their audiences of those people that are searching for new breweries. The other thing that made ours kind of different was that we were on a farm. So we had chickens and we had sheep and we had vegetables, like you could walk around and pet them. And so that was like our differentiator from all of the breweries around here. And so we just, kind of just use strategies like that. Like, however, like for SEO, that was my strategy. And then just keeping out like outreach with those different bloggers. And then people like the Oregonian and the Colombian also heard about that. And they came out and did stories on our farm. So then we started spreading further. And then we would also do local events in our little town. We did like different beer dinners where we would pair our beers we would cook with our vegetables. And so that we also had like that really solid local kind of thing. So we were able to utilize people visiting the area, but then also our local supporters who were amazing as well. And so, like we did a lot of social media for brand awareness. Like I said, a lot of that SEO and outreach. I used email marketing just to kind of keep people aware of like the events we were having, like those beer dinners or the Mother's Day event that ultimately shut us down, just kind of like staying that top of mind every few weeks. Yeah, just did a lot of that. So I just really like I said, kind of took some time to figure out how we could get in front of more people quickly. And that's when I really utilized like that influencer. I guess it's influencer marketing, but that was like 12 years ago when nobody really called it that yet. So we really used that.
So how did you develop your, like you said, buyer persona? So what was your buyer persona for your brewery?
Yeah. So the first one was like our local people just supporting. They ranged pretty far in age, but they, a lot of people knew us from the farm. So that was like our core one. And then our second one was visitors to our area, traveling from Portland or Seattle, coming out to the Columbia River Gorge. They like hiking, they had decent income, they were on vacation. So like, how could I get in front of those, kind of people? And that was like the magazines and the blogs and everything. And those were our two main ones. And the other one would just be like, we had a lot of people that are really into craft beer that would find us. Again, that was through the blogs, but they were kind of like their own thing. Like they would bring out their own tasting notes and just like try all the beers. And like they were very kind of serious about their beer. So that was kind of like our third one as well. We got a lot of those.
And just to reinforce a simple notion, I mean, getting in the Oregonian, A, not easy. B, made a big difference, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it really did, because it's a really widely distributed newspaper. That really helped propel us even further. So we, like I said, I kind of concentrated on the blogs and that, because when you offer people a free beer, they're like, okay, sure, And so we just use that, like I said, and they were sharing on social, and then we had the SEO of all the backlinks, and then just different ways of people finding our website that way. But then, the Oregonian, the Columbian, and then like the Seattle Times actually came down and did like a story on us as well. But that was all organic. That was them seeing the different articles about us, and then they came to us, which was pretty awesome.
That's always the best thing, right?
Yeah.
When somebody finds you and you're like, yes.
But then your PR company still takes credit for it. Well,
also, it usually doesn't happen out of nowhere. It usually happens because you laid the groundwork.
All the foundation has been, is in place. Just off topic for a second. What did you know about raising chickens and brewing beer and running a farm?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
They don't teach you that at Enterprise? I mean, where did that come from? How did you guys do that?
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to stay in corporate and wear cute stuff. My husband had a totally different idea, and he always wanted a farm. Like I said, he renovated for 2 years after Katrina, so we had some nice saving, and this property popped up, and we didn't have kids yet. And we're like, yes, this sounds like a great idea. That's kind of how we got to be that. He bought 4 farming books by Elliot Coleman. He's on the East Coast, just like this organic farmer. Learned all that, and then we started home brewing just for fun in the winters because it rains so much here. Again, just YouTube, Googled everything, and he taught himself how to make beer. And then I raised the animals. When I was younger, I had like dogs and horses. So I've always loved animals, but I never had farm animals. So we just kind of figured it out as we went, to be honest.
So did you figure out a good, cute, like farming wardrobe though? Because clothing, you still have to be fashionable on the farm, right?
Still in the stilettos from.
Well, maybe not the stilettos, but really cute hunter boots or something,
Yeah, a lot of beanies, like a lot of Carhartt. Have you guys heard of that? Yeah. So, and they have like really cute stuff. So, I never thought I would wear Carhartt jeans, and like I had a Carhartt like jean jacket that was really cute too. So,
you guys are sort of the MacGyver of opening a farm and a brewery. You just made it happen.
Well, it's cool. I feel like you can learn anything online, if you really want to these days. You know what I mean? Yeah,
no, you mentioned YouTube. You probably could have done it all through YouTube. That's amazing. Well, good for you guys.
So one of the things that you talk about are SMART goals and SMART. Can you maybe go through when you're building your marketing foundation, kind of explain what the acronym SMART is and then how you would go through it with a client, maybe explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So SMART, like you said, it's an acronym. And these are just things that like when I start with someone, we set these and then, we revisit them, but it's not something you have to like constantly look over. And so it's nice to like guide your strategy and where you're going, because it's kind of hard to go somewhere if you don't have goals. But so SMART, so this S is specific. So being pretty specific for your goals. Again, not just being like, I want to make a lot of money, but like I want to increase my followers to 1,000, or I want to increase online sales by 80%, or I want to like increase my conversion rate by 10%. Whatever that is, whatever specific initiative you're going towards, like that would be your specific goal. The M is measurable. So how are you going to measure that to know that it's working or it's not working? So conversion rates, that would be pretty easy to see on your website analytics. Social media following, again, you can see those numbers go up. A, what can I think of A?
Attainable.
Thank you. Like I need more coffee.
I have it here on my notes.
We have a cheat sheet. So
I memorized the entire thing. That's exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Attainable. So, maybe if you have 20 followers and you want to hit 1 million in 2 months, like that might not be attainable. I mean, it might, but, just keep in mind of what you're going to be doing to hit these goals and can you realistically hit them? And I do like to tell people to like dream a little bit bigger. Like, don't make it so comfortable that you're going to hit them. Like for sure, just stretch yourself a little bit and go for it. And then R is relevant. Is it relevant to your business or is it relevant to like a certain initiative or campaign that you're putting on right now or your overall strategy? Like just make sure that it ties into what you're wanting to do. And then the T is timely. So when do you want to set these goals? Because again, if you don't, I find that when you have a set date, like even if you have to adjust that down the line, if you have a date that keeps you on track and really just, make sure you're doing what you're doing because you're kind of accountable to that timeline. So yeah, that's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely.
We're talking with marketing strategy expert Nicole Bernard about how brands can expand their social media marketing strategy with a solid foundation. Is there any mistakes that like as you're going through this? I mean, are there things that you see happen, like big mistakes if you're not a part of the process, or I'm sure if you're part of the process, you make sure they don't make mistakes. But as you're building the foundation of your marketing, where do you see businesses might go wrong?
One thing I would say is like the messaging and branding, like when they really start to sit and think about like who their ideal customer is and what they're struggling with and, like what keeps them up at night. And then compare like what they really want to say to connect and resonate and engage with their customers. Sometimes there's like a disconnect between what they're posting on social media or what like the verbiage, the copy on their website, like what they kind of think that they might be saying doesn't quite match up when they really start to look at it. So that's like a big thing that we work on of just like their copy and, different brand pillars of like how you want to connect with them and where. And then the other biggest one is really just not having it. Like I said, I see a lot of business owners that are trying to do all of the marketing things, but they're not getting results because they're not really spending their time where they should be, or they're not connecting with their ideal customers because of like their branding or copy or things like that. And so, they're trying all these things, but they're not getting anything. So they're getting frustrated and overwhelmed and think that marketing doesn't work. So that's probably the biggest one that I see is just not having these things. And like I said, kind of organizing it and being ahead of it.
Yeah, no, many times we run into, well, I tried that.
Yeah.
And then we have to find a nice way to explain to them that they didn't try it the right way.
Or for long enough. I find that too. People jump ship before, you can actually start to see some results from that platform or tool that you're using.
And then you have to get their buy-in. I tried advertising. I tried digital.
Didn't work.
And I get it. I mean, they spent a lot of money. Somebody sold them, a salesperson from one place sold them this when they really should have gone to another place and bought this. Then you have to explain to them that they, should give this another try and that this is important and this will work. It could work. Will likely work. But that's sometimes an uphill battle. But you understand it though with the clients. So I mean, they've been scarred.
Yes, definitely. And I don't know if you saw in that article, I wrote out one of my buyer personas, and that is actually one of her struggles because some of these smaller shops, they'll hire someone to do their social media or any other marketing activity, and then they'll be the one doing a bulk of it, and then they're not really getting results either, nor are they getting communication from like the person or marketing company that's doing it. So they're burned, and there's kind of like this negative connotation to marketing. I feel like I have to kind of help walk them through that,
Yeah.
So is another part, because if you, let's say like you open up your brewery or let's say somebody's opening up their vintage clothing shop or a restaurant or whatever scenario it is, right? You have this buyer persona in your head. So you're doing some guesswork in the beginning, right? Because you don't have a history of it. Maybe you're like, I think my buyer is going to be between 20 and 40, and they're going to appreciate downtime and vacation a lot and whatever. Obviously, like alcohol if it's a brewery. But so do you find that you have these buyer personas, but then you have to like check them out to see if that's actually really happening and do a little bit of research, like whether it's like quick Facebook things to say, wait a minute, this is what I thought my buyer persona is, but all the people who are clicking on my ads are like 50 to 7-year-olds. Like, tell me a little bit about how like you set up a structure and then you test to see if it's really right, because maybe you're guessing wrong, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely kind of like, creating fictional, like what you think, like guessing in the beginning. I do have like, I think it's like 15 or 20 questions too, though, that I give my clients to ask like their, loyal customers or people that they know really well, that know their business, that shop with them or do whatever. So that helps them too, because a lot of those like responses are different than what they thought going into it. But I know nobody really likes taking surveys anymore. Even if you like try to bribe them with Amazon cards or anything like that. But just even if you can get like, because I think a lot of people used to send out a lot of like mass emails to all their customers for that. But if you can just get a few to kind of really work through these questions and like, what are the barriers? Like, what are the barriers of like buying my product? You know what I mean? One of the examples I use is like an RV center, and like their ideal people will probably be retired couples. So, like, why are you on TikTok? You probably shouldn't be on TikTok, and like, what's their barrier? Probably their financials. So how can you like address that and like show, like kind of keep that transformation that you're offering them of like an awesome RV travel memories, family time, and like through that time of when you first meet them, kind of guessing. But then also if you can find a few of your loyal customers that you feel like would be, open to answering these questions, and then take their responses and kind of, mesh that with your ideas as well. And then that's a great way to come up with like a pretty solid buyer persona. So
getting feedback, whether it's from digitally, like looking at your digital imprint that you can see that, these people all own Toyotas. Oh, who knew that everybody who owned a Toyota was coming to my brewery or whatever, but narrowing it down, if you send it to all your customers, they might be annoyed. But if you have 5 customers and maybe you treat them for a night or something and you say, if you do this survey, then you get like, your first 2 beers are on us or something, that way because that feedback is like crucial.
Yeah, it is. It's gold, because it's hard to really get inside their head, without getting those answers from them.
There's also the tendency that they want to fish in the same spot over and over again. And sometimes they, well, maybe that's not the only client that you have, young Instagrammers who want to just post this stuff on Instagram. Maybe there's a whole bunch of other people who might be enticed to come to your place. You're just not looking for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think, some people, they kind of know what they know as like what they've been doing, and it's not totally working, and they know of other platforms, but they're not really sure how to utilize them. So they're kind of hesitant to make that step into like pulling on like another marketing activity. Definitely, like when you can get those answers in your buyer persona, that'll help you figure out, which one, like, should I add Instagram? Should I add Pinterest? And then just knowing the demographics of the different ones, or like maybe it's print advertising, that's kind of coming full circle, like mailing people snail mail. Like, so what can I do? What is like the best kind of content in the form that they want to consume?
That's funny, because we have a client who stuck with snail mail and it's been great for them. So what's old is new again.
Or like now write personal letters and actually write out on the envelope. Like nobody gets personal letters in personally written envelopes in the mail anymore, so it's like, oh my God, a letter. Let me open this and see what it is.
Right? Or like, do people like podcasts? Like, should you start a podcast? You know what I mean? Or like YouTube, like, is that where they're looking for all their information? Are they trying to like figure out how to run a farm and brewery on YouTube? Like just different like ways of connecting with them.
I find one of the things that often is missing and that people don't appreciate is messaging, and that it seems to get skipped over, and that companies don't necessarily understand that your messaging is at the top, and that everything, whether it's, advertising or everything you do, like flows from that very first thing that you did. How do you, do you run into that? And then how do you go through a messaging exercise with a new company to say, listen, what are your 3 things you're trying to tell people? And do they know it? I mean, is that a typical problem that you see?
Yeah, definitely. So I try to work with them to have like I said, 3 to 5 like brand pillars. Like, what are your, like not your mission or anything like that, but like different topics that your brand, like when people see these topics or, they hear the word, they're like, okay, that's so-and-so. Like I know that they talk about that, they offer that. So when they're hearing that they think of your brand first. But I think the main thing too with messaging is that like people buy an emotion, not so much logistics or logic. And so really infusing feeling and emotion, and that could be in your copy, that could also be in your images, that could be in your videos, just really thinking of like that transformation that they want to have, like whatever your product or service offers, how can you get them here? You know what I mean? And that's your messaging, and just being consistent with that too. Like consistency is such a key to marketing, y'all know. But I think people forget that too. And like people have to see things, 6 or 7, 8 times before it even registers. So I feel like people feel like they're saying the same thing over and over again, but people really aren't picking up on it every single time. So you just have to be consistent and really write with that emotion that they're going to start connecting and engaging with.
How often do you have to refresh or update the foundation?
I advise, like we go through like every 6 months, like unless they have like a whole like, all right, I'm going to pivot and do something totally different, we would do it right then. But we just kind of revisit it and make sure we're hitting our goals, and we keep track of our analytics to make sure that that's happening. And just, we, like I said, just make sure that our messaging, where we're doing it in digitally or snail mail, if that's still what they're wanting to do, if it's engaging. So I just kind of keep track of all of that to make sure it's working.
Are there any, if you were to look at most businesses and you were to go back to the food analogy, and let's say you had ketchup, mustard, and mayo or something, are there like 2 to 3 things that regardless of what business you are, these are like 3 musts, and it may be, you got to be on social media, and somewhere in even if it's LinkedIn, whatever it is. Are there a couple, just 3
even
things?
If it's LinkedIn?
Well, LinkedIn, meaning we haven't talked about LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a strategy if you're B2B, but different companies, LinkedIn is definitely not your first. Facebook might be your first if you're a big B2C client. So we haven't discussed LinkedIn, but some people might think about LinkedIn first before Facebook. But are there 3 things basically, or 3 to 4 that you're like, this is just a must? They're so important that you must add this to the recipe, or it's going to be a disaster.
Totally. Like you said, social media, that's the one that pops out in my head first, because everybody's on it, depending on what platform they're on, but they're on it some way, shape, or form. And they are scrolling, they're spending time. So as long as you can figure out and connect with them where they're at, and again, the content in the format that they like, whether that's audio or video or static posts or quotes or inspiration, however, like that. So social media would be one, but again, don't waste your time on all of them. Just really figure out which ones are the best for you. And then 2, I would say like your website. I mean, it's 2021, so I hope a business would have a website, but some still don't. Again, it's kind of like a research tool. So people really they're going to use social media. Like you might not get any engagement, but people are still looking and researching and looking for reviews and things like that. And your website's kind of the same thing. It's kind of like their first impression of you. So just making sure you have a nice, clean website that with that messaging and branding that really presents you and your business the way you want it to, and just make it easy for them to get in contact with you. And then piggybacking on that, number 3 for me would be that search engine optimization, like making sure your website is technically up to par. Google just did a bunch of updates this year, so speed, security, things like that, because nobody really wants to go to an unsecure website or broken links, things like that kind of just doesn't look the best either. And then a blog as far as like search engine optimization. And I think like when people hear blog, they're like, well, I'm not like a stay-at-home mom selling oils or something. B2B, B2C, either way, like having a blog or even like just new content going up is so helpful for your website, for your followers to engage with you. Like, so those would be my top 3.
That's good. I have noticed a lot of companies now, not a lot, but more probably the Gen Z, maybe millennial, but probably more Gen Z, like younger folks who are doing things. They only are on Instagram, because now you can just be on Instagram, or let's say you can be on Medium, and your Medium can look like a website. But I'm like always nervous, and I'd love your thoughts about this. What if Instagram went away like MySpace did one day? Do you really want to like give over your entire platform? Like if Facebook or Instagram went away, your whole business, like there's no platform. Do you think that's a massive mistake? And I'm not joking. Like there's some websites out there that sell clothing or sell whatever, and they don't have a website. There's literally no website.
Right. Yeah. No, people I think do forget that we don't really own what we put on those platforms. So I think, yeah, number 4, just in general too, would be your email list. And, a lot of people think that email's dead, but you don't have to send a funnel of 12 emails in 3 days, because then, yeah, you're going to get a lot of unsubscribes. But if you can cultivate like an email list and, just share certain things that would engage them, that they would want to know about, like that would be huge. And you do own that, and people for the most part keep their same email address for a long time. So that's another great way to not lose all those people. Like even when the algorithms changed, like my engagement on Instagram dropped dramatically, I'm just like, geez, because you never know when they're going to change it and how it's going to affect you. So that would be another huge tool, is having your email list. And, again, creating some sort of strategy. Like, do they like it once a week? Do they want to get once a month? Like, how can you just stay top of mind, but then also, provide valuable content that they want?
Nicole Bernard, how did you come up with nb.Marketing? Same way I came up with On the Mark Media.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, is there anything that we forgot? Like you're like, oh man, we didn't talk about this, and this is like top of mind, the most important thing. Anything that we didn't discuss that you think's crucial?
I would really just encourage people to take some time to think about those goals, that messaging, that buyer persona. And then again, pour a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and just kind of like look at your calendar for the next month or two and just start writing stuff down, just again, so you don't feel like so overwhelmed with your different marketing strategies.
I like the wine idea. I think that's good. Can I substitute it for tequila? Would that work?
Yeah, I think so. And then get your burger together and think about your condiments.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have you guys on my podcast because I ship champagne and you guys get to sip and we get to talk about business.
Oh.
Did you say you ship champagne to us?
Mm-hmm. I do. To all my guests, I send out champagne.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Our act together.
We're like losers now. We got nothing. Do you have the Starbucks card in the mail? Casey?
On that dead, dying email thing. We say, thanks. We got to get our stuff together.
Well, thank you. I think this was really enlightening. I think, how do people get a hold of you if they would like to get in touch?
So my website is just my business name, nb.Marketing, no .com. That confuses people. So just .Marketing. And then on all the social media, well, not all, but Instagram and Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn too, but it's nb.MKTG. So just marketing squished up. So yeah, I'm in those places.
I think that's the technical term, squished up.
Squished up.
No.
Smushed up.
No, you know your stuff. You're great. You're really fascinating. So thank you very much. We really appreciate all we've learned. And now it's time for lunch with my burger, with my barbecue.
So hungry now.
Try the barbecue sauce, mushrooms, maybe a pineapple. It's really good.
Ooh, I've never tried that either. I don't eat much fruit, so I probably skip that. But
bacon, then put bacon.
More meat is always a good
and some
thing.
mushrooms. But the mushrooms is where the
may not be good for your
nutrients.
cholesterol, but
thank you very much.
Thank you guys for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Okay, well, that was interesting. I learned a lot. I'm both full of new knowledge, yet I'm hungry at the same time. All that talk about hamburgers and barbecue sauce and
yeah, well, I would also like to add the definition of a condiment is a spice, sauce, or preparation that's added to food after cooking to impart a specific flavor, to enhance a flavor, or complement the dish. So I think lettuce can also be a condiment. But anyway,
what Wikipedia is going to be the answer for that? No, I think
it was Google. I don't know. I can't even say it was
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.
To the Food Network site.
But anyway, I 100% agree. If you want to hear more of Marc's outrageously accurate comparisons, wow, that was the first time I read that.
Yeah, we should read these things beforehand.
Marc's outrageously accurate. Like I've ever said that about anything you say.
Outrageously accurate is a good term.
Comparison. Yes. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at On The Mark Media, so you know when our latest episodes post. You can also find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, all at On The Mark Media, and all those marks are with a C.
Our outrageously accurate podcast, Off the Mark, is a production of On The Mark Media. Until next time, I'm Mark.
And I'm Kathy, the outrageously brilliant co-host.
And we are the Bickersteins. Don't forget the ketchup or the barbecue sauce
Or the relish.
or the relish, but you can forget the mayo. Bye.